Going live, going live, going live. And it says I'm live. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay. So like I said, I want to review very briefly, the information that we did on the graphing calculator in regards to the normal distribution. Now, on your calculators, of course, it's a slightly different interface than the one that I have on my TI-83, which is why I'm also going to bring up my TI-84. I'm also going to bring up my TI-84. I'll zoom out a little bit. The TI-84 Plus that I have on my phone. So I just wanted to show you both interfaces. Now, just for the sake of argument, for this particular quizzes, for some of these problems, not all of these problems, not all of them, but for some of these problems, you are going to have to access the normal CDF. Normal CDF, if you hit second and vars, vars is right here on the graphing calculator. You can see it's right next to clear, and I'm hitting second vars because I got to go to distribution. Same thing on the 84s. If you hit second vars, it'll take you to DISTR, distribution. That is where you are going to find these particular functions. Second vars. Now, normal CDF looks different depending on the calculator that you are using. If you're using my calculator, my 83, you get that. If you're using the 84, you get that. That is how they're set up. Now, again, remember, when you are using normal CDF, typically they are giving you the data points. And once you hit paste and calculate that thing out, it'll give you the percentage on the normal curve between those 2 points. That is what normal CDF does. Basically, it's like, okay, the mean would be in the middle, and then plus 1 standard deviation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Minus 1 standard deviation. Someone get that? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then if you're plugging in those 2 points for lower and upper, it would give you the percentage between the two, which is kind of nice. Now, the way that the calculators are set up on your Chromebook is very nice because they give you that interface. You don't have to think about what you have to type in because they're literally saying lower limit, upper limit, your mean, your standard deviation. Now, on the Chromebook, because we're about to take a quizzes, I'm just reviewing some information. If you leave the mu and the sigma as a 0 and a 1, then they are going to assume that you are typing in z-scores. If you leave the mu as a 0 and your standard deviation as a 1, then the calculator is going to assume that you are talking about z-scores. So your lower and upper limit would actually be a z-score. Let me give you an example. There we go. So a problem that you might be faced with, give me a not a quizzes. Not a quizzes? Well, yeah, you're going to get one in a little bit. Oh, she's saying not a quizzes like, I don't want to take a quiz. Anyway, whatever. Give me a number, a single-digit number, any number. 4, we'll go with 4. Cool. Check this out. If I had a problem that was like this. Now, look at this real quick. This is a weird kind of calculation. First of all, they're talking about z-scores. They're talking about z-scores. I know they're talking about z-scores because of the letter z there. They're saying, what is the probability that the z would be greater than 4? Meaning, what I'm going to do, okay, they want to know what percent of the graph would be filled in with a z-score of 4 or greater. A z-score. So look what I'm going to type in. Look what I'm going to type in into my calculator on the right. I'm going to type in a 4. I'm going to type in some giant number. It doesn't matter what that giant number is. 10,000, 100,000, million, doesn't matter. But I'm going to leave my mu and standard deviation the same, 0 and 1. And whatever that number is would be the answer. But what if they changed it up? They might change it up where they give you the following piece of information, where they may say, okay, assume for a moment that the mu is like, I don't know, 52, and the standard deviation is like 3. I'm making those numbers up. What is the probability that you'd have an x greater than, I don't know, 54 or some junk like that? I'm making that up. Now, in the context of the problem, they're giving you the mu, they're giving you the sigma, so I would literally type those in for mu and sigma in the interface that I have there, whatever the mean is. So 52 and 3 in this case. And since they're saying, okay, what's the probability that x is greater than 54, meaning 54, comma, some big number, paste, enter, I got my answer. I just want you to be aware as to how that interface actually works. And again, this is just practice. This is just practice. After this practice, I want to go over a few of these problems with you that we're going to write down this information. You left your mu and standard deviation as 0 and 1. Exactly. Now, here's the thing. If you're dealing with z-scores, yes, leave it as 0 and 1. If you're dealing with a problem that's giving you a mu and giving you a standard deviation, you have to type those in. Yeah. The other thing that you might be faced with is inverse norm. Inverse norm is right below normal CDF, and it gives you this. Now, on your calculators, they give you a little bit more extra information, correct? They give you like the left, center, right? Cool. Leave it on left. Mine's automatically set to left. What that really means, just as a reminder, my little marker go, there it is. If you were to put in an area like, I don't know, let me guess, right here. I'm going to type in 84, or 0.84 actually. This is approximately 84% of the graph, or the 84th percentile, and it's set to the left for yours, which is why I shaded it into the left. But if I type in 0.84 and hit paste, it'll spit out the z-score that is at the 84th percentile. That is the z-score that is at the 84th percentile. Whereas, if I actually put in a mean and standard deviation, come back here, inverse norm, 52 and 3, just for the fun of it. If I actually type that thing in, there's a fantasy update. You didn't see it, it popped up on my phone. Oh, I don't know. I didn't actually read it, I'll read it later. But if you type in the mean and standard deviation, it'll give you the data point. So let me just leave this up here as a note. Normal CDF. Plug in data points. Get percentage. Inverse norm. Plug in percentage. Get data points. I just wanted to write that up there. I'm going to leave that up there for the duration of this particular quizzes. Again, the quizzes, that's not counting against you. This is a practice, but eventually I am going to assign you something probably before I leave here today to kind of get this thing done. Okay. Go to quizzes and sign in. I'm going to have a code for you in a moment. Heck yeah. I know you all missed it.
Rob, you miss it? Are you going to one? You go to
038. There we go. I know that you can't see it in the chat because there's a giant glare right here. So there's the code right there, 604038. Well, you can join. You can join. There are people in the chat. You can join, but it won't start till I click start.
It's your fan base.
That's weird. Yeah, don't do that. I don't know. I didn't know it had that option. Maybe they updated it. No. All right, hold on. Let me watch. I just want to see for my own sake what it actually does. You can only attempt within one time. Why? That's weird.
This says it to me too. You can only attempt this game one time.
Click start. Let's see what happens. So what did it do?
It just brought me to the end screen that you see at the end.
No, it's not. You get to select the theme.
Oh, wait, really? Oh.
Yeah, look, there's other people joining with you. Yeah. I guess so.
Select the theme.
Yeah.
All the other things are
Maybe they updated it. What do you mean the code isn't 038? No, it's 604038.
I'm gonna do touchdown.
Oh, goodness. Make sure people are actually getting into this thing. Some people online are still trying to get in, but just want to make sure that you guys are. If you click start, it won't actually start the quiz. There it is, but it made you join the thing, and then you have to select the theme. Make sure you have the calculators open. The calculators are going to be helpful, obviously, for various calculations. It's not just the calculators, but it's also some of the information that we have been covering in terms of the normal distribution. So some definitions may also be helpful. Before I click start, I'm also going to suggest, so you don't waste time, having your notebooks handy, just in case you need to look something up really quick. So I'm just saying, just in case. There was a Dogville theme? That's weird. Anyway, but yeah, I'm reading the chat while I'm doing this, but make sure you have the notebooks handy as a just in case, because it's going to be like, oh, wait a minute, what's that definition? Let me look that up real quick, and I don't want you to waste the time having to pull out the notebook. So, all right, I'm gonna get this thing started. Let's go.
Oh, my thing has sound? No.
Oh yeah. Where's the normal distribution here?
Oh, we were talking about that while you were out of the room. Normal distribution on the calculator. You're going to bring up that calculator. Okay. The stuff that you need is under second vars. Second vars.
Just normal CDF. But
Normal CDF and inverse norm. Look, if you see what I wrote to the right of the board, I have normal CDF. Basically, you plug in the data points to get a percentage. Inverse norm, you plug in a percentage to get the data points. Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I figured it out.
Okay. Now remember, this is just practice. This is just practice. I definitely want to review the problems that give us the most trouble. This right now does not count as a grade. I just want to see how well we're doing and see what we need to practice or what we need to review.
so
Yes.
this. So I'm plugging in these numbers.
What is the total area of it? Well, no, this is more of a you don't actually need the calculator for that problem. Yeah. Because think about the different types of results that we've gotten with normal CDF, the different types of decimal numbers that have popped up, right? So this, again, there's more of a logic-ish problem. We'll review this after the fact, of course.
Wait,
But
for
I want to see what you guys do.
For Z-scores, would I use normal CDF or the inverse norm? What is it?
It depends on what the question's asking. Keep in mind that the calculation of a z-score is equal to that formula. So some problems you might need that. You know, let's see what problem this is. What is the z-score? That is the z-score formula.
Okay.
Yeah.
The mean is the U, right?
The Mew,
The U.
the 151st Pokemon.
What's the first Pokemon?
What?
What's the first Pokemon?
The first Pokemon? Well, it depends. If you want to talk about the chronological, like the history of Pokemon on the first one ever created, or do you want to talk about who's number one in the decks?
Both.
Both. Well, number one would be Arceus. I don't know if you know your Pokemon history. Okay. And number one of the Pokedex is Bulbasaur. You should know this stuff. Come on.
Oh, what is it saying? There.
This is meant to be a little bit of a try by fire. Remember, this does not count against you. I want to see what you guys know and what you don't know. Sorry. I needed to hear this. It's infectious, right? It's really good.
Oh, it is, man. I'm about to play this in my car.
there's no harm, no foul in this right now.
We just learned this the other day.
Yeah, last week and this week. Yeah.
It's not a new thing, it's just from the Z-score.
Okay.
That's not fun.
Z-scores are calculated by taking the data point minus the mean divided by the standard deviation.
So I don't even have to
Yeah.
use it.
Now, keep in mind over here, what I wrote over here. This is if you need a percentage.
Yeah.
Right? This is if you need like the actual data point.
Yeah.
But Z-scores can be calculated that way.
So how do you put that in the calculator?
Well, it's basically a fraction. The top of the fraction is just, x minus x bar, meaning the data point minus the mean.
I know that it's supposed to be like the ND, but I don't know where to get ND. Like N over T? N over T?
Yeah.
In the other
Do you have air
calculator.
conditioning in your mask?
Shut up, no.
But I'm a little confused. What do you mean n
So
over z?
that's what it was in the calculator. That's somewhere that you put it in.
Well, I would just set up as fractions like division. Literally, like for example, if you like, oh goodness, and that happens a lot. If you type in like a parentheses, like 2 minus 1 parentheses divided by 3, you type it in just like that. Okay. One second.
Frank from Tech, please call the main office or come to the office. Frank from Tech.
So, these are one of those things I was talking about where they would just give you like P parentheses and then here's the question. Now it's a Z, indicating that they're giving you a Z-score. And they're saying is what's the probability that Z is less than negative 0.39? So what they're really saying is, okay, imagine like here's 0.39. What's the probability that you have something less than that? So lower limit, some giant negative number. Upper limit, the number that they gave you. Yeah. So you got to put parentheses on the top of the fraction. Yeah, it's always a good idea to do that because otherwise it's going to be typed in incorrectly.
What do you consider like a giant number? Like anything?
Good question. Giant positive number, giant negative number. Usually I just type in like 1 0 0 0 0, and then like negative 1 0 0 0. That should be sufficient.
You said the lower would be the one giant number, and then the upper would be the number of using.
Well, what they give you negative 0.39,
Yeah.
and they said less than, right? So like negative 0.39, less than on the number line, least to greatest.
So would it be a negative?
Negative giant number.
Okay.
Lower limit, upper limit.
Hey. How you doing over there, Rob? Doing good?
I think he missed you.
Oh, I missed him. How can you not miss him? What's wrong?
Yeah. Can I see the move the thing out of the way a little? I just want to see the full question.
Rob's on the roll.
Okay. Now, 2% yes, you would type it in as a decimal, so you would think immediately 0.02, but I want to point something out to you. They did say the top 98, or the top 2%. I just kind of gave it away a little bit there.
I have a question. 98.
Oh, coming around, coming around. What's up?
Okay, so for that same one, would I do like, zero and then 3, 6,
Yeah, you would leave it as 0 and 1 because they gave you Z-scores.
but it's been like saying error.
Can you go, click go to? You typed in a minus sign
Oh,
instead of a negative sign. I think that's what happened.
oh, oopsies.
So I was,
They give you a mean, they give you a standard deviation.
right, so I was wondering,
Mu, the little m, and sigma, the weird little 6. Those are the Greek letters mu and sigma for mean standard deviation. Those are the numbers you would put in there. What's up?
So since it's, this is not a percent, right?
Well, here's the thing, percentages could be expressed as decimals, like 50% is just 0.5.
Yeah.
Would I round it or would it just be round?
Well, it depends, obviously this is a quiz.
As she said, for the big number, it can be anything.
Yeah, like, like 100,000, something like that. What's your 0.3482?
Yeah. So just put this in 700.
See what happens. I don't know if this, we can just tell you if you're correct or wrong. I don't think it does.
No,
Just click it, see what happens.
I don't know. If it's just-
We'll see, we'll see.
I'm on a roll right now.
Okay.
You know, I didn't even finish at the question. How do I get off that screen?
Usually you can get up any screen by hitting a second mode. Second mode will do, you can quit it. Yeah.
I don't know what time it is.
Okay. Typically it's safer to just leave it as left tab, meaning that if I were to do, as I talked about before, the 84th percentile, it would mean that I'm filling in the first 84% of the data, and it's left tail because it's going to the left. Now this particular problem, if the shaded area under the curve, oh, that's not asking for that whatsoever. Yeah. Think about this, think about it logically. For example, I just shaded in up here 84% of the graph. What percent of the graph did I not shade in?
Yeah, you're 27%.
Careful.
15.
Well, for your number, not for mine.
That's it.
Yeah, and that was just,
I was just
yeah.
overthinking it.
that was pure coincidence that I picked 84 and it said 85.
Yeah,
I
that's
forgot that it said 85.
So that was just like
A logic
for a
question.
lot.
Typically, the first number, the percentage should be put in as a decimal? Can I see the question though? Okay, what you need for that question is this. Yes, because again, I want to point something out. Normal CDF is when you got to get the percentage back. Inverse norm is typically when you want to get the data point back. But if you ever have to calculate a z-score, that's usually the way you want to go.
What does it seem to ask?
That's what I was referring to. I think you were coming in on the tail end of that. It's basically saying, okay, your mu and sigma are given. They want you to find the probability, which is a percentage, a decimal, normal CDF, of x greater than 400. Meaning, if I have like a normal curve, here's where 400 is, 400 or greater. That's your lower and upper limits. It's just basically typing in the numbers into the appropriate location. You have your lower, your upper limit. They give you a mu, they give you a sigma, and then you kind of go from there.
Okay. I see what you're saying. If you like plug this stuff into the right spots, it's not that bad. You just gotta figure out where to plug it in.
It's basically like which tool needs to be used.
Literally.
You know what I'm saying? It's like at the beginning of each month at Home Depot puts out like a little tool, a kit for the kids to kind of build.
Yeah.
And it's got nails, it's got like long nails, short nails, screws, pegs, it's got all sorts of different things. And my son is now 6 and a half, and he's getting to a point where he's beginning to read the instructions and learn, okay, which piece do I need? What tool do I need to use? Kind of situation. Hammer, screw, flathead, stuff, you know, Phillips, that kind of thing. And that's what this is basically. It's like, what tool do I need and how do I use it? Some people got some impressive streaks going on.
I know, it makes me sad.
Okay.
Error don't need.
Let's take a look. The area that you typically type in would be in decimal form as a percentage. But here's the thing though, This problem should be using a normal CDF.
Wow.
Look at the answers that they gave you. They're all decimals, which are technically all percentages. Now you see how it says P parentheses? The probability. Probability is typically expressed as a percentage. Probability is what you want out of that problem. You need to get percentage out of it. That's where normal CDF will come into play.
I see what it says. Hey.
Oh, that's really loud. There we go. I muted that. There we go. I muted it. we're doing pretty well so far because we started out with like a 40% average as a class, and so far that average is already up to 57.
Donovan thinks he's letting in front of me right now. No, let me scroll back.
I think you gotta type the number in first.
How do you do that? You kicking up on me, Donovan? I don't know.
Okay, look at the question. I didn't read anything other than what is the z-score. That's the only thing that I read. Now, normal CDF is if you want to get a percentage back. Inverse norm is typically if you want to get data points back. But if you ever have to just flat out calculate a z-score, this is what you typically need. X minus the average divided by the standard deviation.
So I just like do it later.
Well, you mean you could, or you could just like throw it into the calculator appropriately with parentheses. Ah, nice. Okay. What are those numbers at the bottom? It's just like 0, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it's like 0, 3, 0,
Those numbers are z-scores. Those numbers are z-scores when you have your mean at 0 right in the middle, and each successive thing up is like 1, 2, 3. That's one standard deviation. So what this problem is really saying, what's the area underneath the graph with from one standard deviation down, or the lower limit of like some giant negative number up to 1? That's what it's really asking. Area is going to be a percentage. Normal CDF is typically.
Oh, Rob's on a four street. Did you finish?
So it would be lower stuff.
Mu and sigma would be 0 and 1 for that.
0.
With this, it's gonna be, how would I start?
The number right in the middle, 0, is your mean. And each kind of dash up that we've always kind of, when we've done these things out,
This would be inverse norm, right?
no,
No?
because you're not looking for a data point. The question is actually asking what is the area under the curve, or the shaded area. The area is actually a percentage. Typically, each of these little dashes that I usually draw on, that's like +1 standard deviation, +2 standard deviation, etc. What that graph is basically saying is average is 0, standard deviation is 1. And they're saying, okay, well, what's your lower and upper limit? Your upper limit's 1, and it goes all the way down.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to stop you. You know? Here, let me get that actually.
If somebody stops you, you give me a call, Rob. Give me a call.
Yeah, you'll drop the crutches just to make a call in the school service.
Yeah, it's the best thing.
Some of you guys got some impressive streaks going. I see a streak of 7 and a streak of 8.
Mine doesn't even count up as a streak. 'Cause I've been getting them right, and it's just been staying there.
Oh, I mean, no. What happened there? Hold on. I know you got your hand up for a second. This thing hasn't updated.
Yeah, I know.
No, it hasn't.
That's so weird.
Because I was about to say, there's no way I have two.
I was gonna refresh the screen real quick.
I've been getting them right. That's it. Oh, that music was fire.
Is that a little better?
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, we're up to 60%. What's up?
Does it seem like,
The empirical rule? 68% is a part of the empirical rule. Yes, it is. Yes.
So, what I, what is it this one?
Well, lower and upper limit, they're saying they want to know the probability of getting x greater than 400 or 400 and higher. So what would be your upper limit? Over 400 or higher.
So, 400 is a lower.
What would be your upper limit?
Oh. And what would I?
Well, you typed in 400 for upper, and then you asked me what would be the upper.
Oh, I mean the lower.
Well, no. When I say 400 or higher, imagine this for a moment. It's like here's 400 or higher.
Oh.
Yeah.
so here's this would be 95 or something. 0.5, that's not 95%.
Approximately. Oh, it says S, Steve. The S's look like fives.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
That's so weird.
That's what I thought.
Well, so you could do this in one of two ways. One way of doing it is exactly the way that you just did, which would get you the exact decimal. The other way of doing it is just recognizing the empirical rule. Remember the 68, 95, 99.7 rule.
Hey. This isn't that terrible.
Okay. The standard normal curve is the curves that I've been drawing this entire time, right? And they want to know what is the area underneath the whole thing. So what would you say? Well, look at your choices real quick, right? And then, because typically they give it to you as a decimal. Yeah. Just for the sake of argument, for you guys that are still working on this, just listen very closely to this. Class only goes to about 8:20. Take your time. Take your time. What I'm going to do, instead of, because I had planned to spend the last chunk of time going over the problems that we needed to go over. Instead, I'm going to make a video going over the problems that we need to go over. I'm going to upload that to YouTube, and I'm going to throw that into the Google Classroom so you guys can still get the review that you absolutely need along with whatever I'm going to assign you. So with the 10 minutes that we have left, please continue working through these problems at the same pace that we've been going.
You know what's been tricky? This stupid, like, the negative sign. Because,
Negative and minus.
yeah, no, and then also, there was this, I mean, you can't see the problem.
I don't know that.
But, the answer was like either like positive 1.42 or it was negative 1.43. And I thought it was positive 95.
Was it a Z-score problem?
That, yeah, it was like that,
So the one on the top left.
yes.
Okay. Keep in mind that wherever the average is, let's just say here's the average. If your data point is up below average, you're less than average, you're underperforming, your Z-score will be negative. You know what I'm saying? So it may be perhaps it messed up on the top of the fraction.
Okay.
What's up?
I have 2 questions.
Oh, your battery's almost done.
Yeah, so this thing takes like 20 years.
I got you. Now check this out. Suppose a male long jumper ranked in the 75th percentile, right? How long was this jump? Now here's the thing. You have the 75th percentile, right? You have the percentage, and you want the data point. That's the function that you really want to use.
And I have a second question.
Yes.
Can you, by any chance, can you write me a recommendation, a college recommendation?
Well, this is coming out of nowhere.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, he doesn't run.
Because I'm kind of a little late on this.
Is there gonna, if you did it, would you submit something through Naviance? Okay, and would I get one of them yellow papers?
Yeah.
That'd be fine.
Because I need 4 people, and I asked 2 people.
4?
I got you.
Yeah, you need, how many do you do?
They said I needed 2.
2?
I did 2, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So my mom was capping.
Let's just focus on the problem.
I just did
No,
2.
they said, because usually, on Common App, it says it's either optional or it's 2 required.
2 required, right?
Yes. And then the other 2 could be optional.
Okay, I'll just do
Regardless, let's get back to work. It's just like, okay, I have a question about this problem. Also, could you help me with my future?
2. For that area, it would be the percent, right?
Yes, but typically when you use inverse norm, you gotta type in the percentage as a decimal.
So the 75th percentile would be the area, right?
Yes, because when you're talking, now, you know how I told you to leave it as left?
Yeah.
Check this out. I don't know where the 75th percentile would be. Let's just pretend it's right there.
Yeah.
So if you do left, it's going to fill in all of that area, which would be 75% of the graph.
Okay.
You know, if you are in the 75th percentile, it means that you score better than 75% of the population.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I see where it's going. handle your capping out forms?
No, it's gonna do it. Yeah.
Do you pay for it there? Like
Yeah.
at the thing? Do you need cash or does it matter?
I don't know. My mom said it was in checks, so it needs to be cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 second, 1 second.
I have to fill stuff out. I haven't done anything. Right?
Yeah. I thought that I was playing on my phone. Because I think it's due by tomorrow.
So I'll just fill
I
it out.
gave you guys those forms yesterday, or Monday.
Yeah, I know. I just don't have time. At the end of the day.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
one is a possibility.
I
So
sent it up like,
you want
Where'd you apply?
CBI.
did I apply?
Yeah, where'd you apply?
Penn State, because I have an offer.
Since
And
they
then,
give you the Z score, you have to assume
FAU, FSU,
Zero
applying to
standard
UCF,
deviation.
because the coach contacted me as well. I'm going to apply for, North Florida and then South. And then I also applied to the University of South Carolina, and I'm going to apply, to North Carolina.
Chapel Hill?
Yeah. So, and then I have others.
I'm applying to Chapel Hill too. I'm gonna go play football. I'm just applying just to see where I get it.
Yeah.
I hear crutches.
Chapel Hill, and I'm applying to,
I heard you down the hallway.
FSU.
FSU, yeah.
FSU,
I-
Chapel Hill, USC, Arizona State.
Yeah, I applied to USC too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are still working. You have about 3 minutes. While you were out of the room, what I explained to them was my original intent was to review the questions that we had the most trouble with. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make a video doing that, and I'm going to throw it up on YouTube and put it into the Google Classroom, so you guys can watch that and review from there. Couldn't tell. What's up? They give you the percentile, right? They give you the percentile. That's what I'm saying. It all depends on what they give you and what they're asking. Yeah. All right, just looking at the scoreboard. You guys have about a minute and change. Before I shut it down. I'm just waiting to see. Like, you got like several people that are on the verge of possibly overtaking Robert's score.
Nobody's being right. I'm not gonna finish this, so what should I do?
Well, remember what I said. I'm going to make a video going over the questions regardless. So you don't have to worry about finishing it. This did not count against you. Here comes the bell. So, like I said, pay attention to Google Classroom.
No matter what.
Pay attention to Google Classroom. We'll get that thing done.
Oh.
Woo! Thank you all for joining. I'm going to sign off.